We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
You are listening to The Underground Marketing Conspiracy, a secret ritual where entrepreneurs acquire highly classified and confidential business knowledge that the top 1% of income earners don't want you to know. And now, your host, Maddie Milligan.
What is going on, my fellow conspirator and conspirators? Welcome to another episode of The Underground Marketing Conspiracy. Woo! So today I want to tell you the truth about buying email lists and really just my experience with them, as well as some tips that you can use to, if you are considering doing this, so that you're actually successful doing this. Because I think buying email lists is something you really do later on, and it needs to be a good fit, right? It really needs to be something where you need to do your due diligence, researching how this person got this list, making sure that their audience and their avatar is similar to your avatar, and finding out where they collected this customer information. Because it's not that difficult for other people to go out there and scrape websites and collect and harvest user data, specifically emails, and then just send emails to people. Like, that's not that difficult to do. So if you find these people on some of these solo ad sites where they're selling these email sends, you need to kind of do your research and be like, okay, where did you get this list? Like, how did you get this data? Is this a buyer list or is this a subscriber list? Did people actually buy your products? How long have you been building this list for? See as well if you can buy a very small percentage of the list and test that out. The problem with that, though, as I've noticed, is that in some cases these people will front load the list, where they'll sell you, let's say, maybe 5% of the list for whatever the price will be. They'll sell that to you, and those will be their latest subscribers. And you send it, and it's like, whoa, and then it does well. And then it's like, hey, do you want the rest of the list? And you're like, yeah, sure, right? I would also, when you're buying your list, really quickly, don't tell the person that you had a good result, right? Like, if you test part of their list and you do get a good result, they'll go back being like, oh man, it's amazing. Like, when they come back, they're like, hey, how was that email sent? You can be like, it went all right. And if it went well, again, that allows you to just negotiate a little bit better, right? Get a little bit of a better deal. But I would really think about this. If you get someone and they sell you their list, they're probably going to tell you that you should buy the rest of the list, right? And you're probably thinking that, like, oh, well, if I made money from buying 5% of the list, like, I just need to buy the rest of it. I would be very cautious, because they could have given you their most recent signups, and the rest of their list is people that have subscribed to the list, who knows, like 10 years ago. So when you do that, you probably won't get the same kind of results, to be honest, right? So I would really consider this deeply. There's all sorts of websites where you can buy email lists, and it's something, again, do your research as to where this person got that list. I don't want you to get in trouble with your autoresponder company. I would also recommend that you don't buy their list and send it from your own email service. I would recommend that you get them to send it from their own email service, right? Write the email yourself and make sure that it hits all the psychological points that people are going to buy your product. And if it's an email as well where it's worked before for you, then just take your best offer, give it to them, and then again, send them traffic to your website. There's some tools that allow you to do this too, where if someone clicks on a button on someone's email, it opts them into your list as well, right? I think you can do this actually I think it's called Click Opt-in in ClickFunnels. You can do this in, but that's a feature I never see anyone do. And the benefit from that is, again, all they need to do is click on a link in someone else's email, and they're automatically subscribed to your own email lists. Like, that's it. They don't need to go to a site and deal with the friction of entering their email address in a little box and then clicking the submit button. They no longer need to do that, right? All they need to do is just click on the link from someone else's email, and now they're on your list. And then again, that puts them on your list. Then when you start sending them emails next time, because they've already opted in, you're not going to have any issues with your autoresponder company. They're not going to reach out to you and be like, hey, you had a lot of spam, so you can no longer use our service, because I've seen that happen a few times, right? So tips for buying these email lists, like, where do you find them? There's all sorts of companies out there, but I'd probably go and actually find other companies that have a similar avatar to yours, and then really speak with them about sending an email. And heck, this is where you might need to just pay them to do one send. Maybe you broker a deal where it's like, hey, maybe for the first send, we'll give you X amount of dollars or X percentage of sales from the profit that we actually make from these, right? That way you're building a good relationship with those people. A lot of these email lists, though, I found that the more someone's actually willing to charge, the better you're actually going to do. I heard this story, I don't remember who it is, but I think they bought some ridiculous email send. It was like a couple 100,000 users for like 70 or 80 grand. And when you hear that, it's like, wow, you want me to spend $80,000 on an email send? Like, that's insane. But it was a good match. They're like, yeah, and then we wrote the email and we sent it, and they're like, for 1 minute, my heart completely stopped. I'm like, oh man, I just wasted $80,000. And then it was like, cha-ching, 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 and the sales were ridiculous, and they easily made and recouped that $80,000, plus gained all those new customers and made insane amounts of sales for selling their, I think it was like physical products in a subscription plan that they sold. I don't remember who sold that story, or who told me that story, but I heard it and I was just like, whoa, okay, that makes sense. But how they started with that person is they bought a small percentage of their list at first. They're like, hey, you know what? Like, we'll send it to a certain amount of people for $5,000. And they're like, whoa, okay. And even then, that was a big investment, but they send it, they recoup that, and it's like, all right, now we'll sell you the rest of the list because it's totally worth it. Here's how we got all this data. Here's how we treat our customers. Here's how often we send them our emails. Here's the kinds of emails that we sell. We rarely do any sort of affiliate stuff. We also send value-based emails to our customers, so we're sending them emails with content that we've created recently that aren't just pitch emails with discount codes every single time yelling sale, sale, sale. They actually send a lot of value-based emails which solve a lot of people's problems, right? A lot of content, right? That's what they're doing, content marketing with their emails, promoting YouTube videos, Facebook videos, Instagram, blog posts they've created, whatever it is, maybe even just simple podcast episodes like I do, like whatever it is. Again, you need to have those emails in between, and that's going to make, when you're buying those emails, like ask the person what the relationship is with their list, right? How often do they email them? Like, what's the response rate? What's the open rate? What's the click-through rate? Like, I think a lot of people, again, aren't going to do their due diligence. They're just going to like, oh, I'm going to go to a site like, I think it's called like Udemy, and buy some solo ads there, and it's going to do well. And maybe it will, if it's not going to cost you that much. I mean, one mistake I see a lot of people do is they'll go and buy these email sends from sites like Fiverr, and as soon as I hear that, I'm like, man, that is going to fail so freaking hard. Again, these people don't know who you are. You don't know where that person got that list. You don't even know who the person is that's sending that email. If it's going to be, what you're selling is going to fit, this could just be a random list they've scraped somewhere. Like, you don't really know where it's coming from. Same thing if you're thinking about buying a bunch of click traffic from social media, where it's like, oh, I have a huge following on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, and I'll send you X amount of visitors, right? Those are usually just click farms, right? They've usually just hired people to click on your website link, and then when you look at your reports, it's like, oh, like people did actually click on it, but then you're like, oh, I made 0 sales. So I would stay away from that kind of thing. I don't recommend doing email lists really until you've kind of tapped out a lot of other paid strategies as well. I think it's the step you do probably between a lot of paid ads. When you've kind of hit the plateau and capped out on Facebook ads and Instagram and YouTube and Google and any sort of paid online mediums, then I would probably go into buying email lists and solo ads. But again, if it's not very expensive and it seems like something where you're like, maybe I'll take a little bit of risk, it's not going to bankrupt me, it's not going to necessarily do that, then maybe you do want to test this out, right? Very inexpensively. But then again, be smart with every single dollar that you are investing into this email list for that email send. And again, this is usually something where it's going to get you a quick result. It's not necessarily that scalable unless you've found multiple people and you've kind of created a little group of businesses where you're all kind of working together, where you work and you have similar avatars, where you're selling products to the same kind of person and buyer. So that would really be what I would do. But I think before going into, it's the step I would say before pivoting into a lot of the what's called old media, like TV ads and billboards and magazine ads, I think, and even radio ads for that fact, but I think that email lists are very powerful, but at the same time, like the results are very, like the kind of results you're looking for, they're hard to get, right? You need to do your research, make sure that you're being smart, making sure that you're not spending too much, making sure you're not just throwing away your money and burning it. And I think one big thing too is focus on the copy in that email, right? Like get a good copywriter to write you a very good email, right? That again hits all those psychological triggers like authority and reciprocity and commitment and consistency and social proof. If the email has all of those elements and it's fit for the right person and it's your avatar, then I'm very optimistic it will be successful. But at the same time, again, I've done a lot of email sends where I know it's going to bomb and I'm telling the person not to do it and they go out and do it and sure enough it bombs. So I'm just paying it forward, right? I'm just letting you know, giving you some cautions, giving you some warnings of the kind of stuff that I've seen, and really just giving you my own personal tips of what you should do when you're actually going out. And even if you are considering buying email lists, hopefully this gave you some information on how to proceed. If you did enjoy today's episode, I want you to consider subscribing, maybe even consider going back and listening to other episodes from the past. If you're listening to this on iTunes, maybe even consider leaving a review and sharing some feedback. Otherwise, if you have questions or you want me to speak on specific topics or you saw something in the news regarding marketing or business or sales or entrepreneurship, then you can send it to undergroundmarketingconspiracy@gmail.com. My name is Matty Milligan. I'll see you next time on another episode of the Underground Marketing Conspiracy. Ooh.